Hey, house groups, how's it going? You probably noticed I got a few drool stains going on. I'll let you be the judge on whether they are mine or Crew's, but we'll get past it together. When Elise and I moved into our house, the yard, it was an absolute disaster. Like the previous owners, they had a giant above-ground pool and also a trampoline, and you could see these just giant circles of weeds where they once were because, like, sitting there, they killed all the grass, and then they got rid of them eventually, and then the weeds just took over. And then in addition to that, there were two super dead big trees in the backyard, and the front yard, it was okay, but they had removed a tree a long time ago and kind of only really rough job, half ground the stump, and so mowing was kind of like pushing a mower through the Rockies. Like, the yard was rough, and it was just years and years of neglect that led it to the state that it was in when we moved in. And I can remember like driving by other houses in the neighborhood, like, oh man, that yard looks good. It's amazing. Like the stripes, the grass. They have grass. Like, that's amazing. Those lucky ducks. But the grass, it was literally greener on the other side. And I love how on Sunday Mike, he talked about that with marriage, because like a yard doesn't just stay perfectly manicured and weed-free and level and smooth without intentionality, a marriage isn't very solid and steady and fruitful without intentionality. And he noted, like, the grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it, like where you fertilize it and cut it and seed it and pull out the weeds, which I don't think is like surprising or new information to any of us. This all makes sense and we get it, but it's so easy to let the covenant we made with our spouse turn into a contractual relationship. Like, especially as kids come into the picture and get older and life gets crazy. The problem with that is if we let our marriage turn from covenant relationship to contractual relationship, there's a good chance we'll have no relationship before long. And it's heartbreaking. We know the divorce rate is skyrocketing, but even though we know that, we don't really change anything. And as Christians, I think it can be easy to put like the umbrella of Christianity over our relationship and assume that just like because we go to church on Sunday, we're covered. Like, we don't have to work very hard on our relationships because we're Christians. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Like, we still see a high divorce rate. And we know that half of all marriages that end do so in the first 7 years. And we also know that the average couple waits 6 years before seeking professional help for their marital problems. And 80% of the time, it's the woman who brings up the issues. And then I thought this stat was interesting too. 67% of new parents experience a significant drop in couple satisfaction in the first 3 years of the baby's life. And that makes sense. Like, when we see how much the focus of a marriage shifts from investing in each other to investing in the child, which, again, I think we know all of this, but it's really easy to slip into the rhythm that's been set for us in culture and forget that we have a much more beautiful and deep picture of marriage than the one the world paints. The last statistic that I'll throw at you is that stable marriages have around a 5-to-1 ratio of positivity to negativity during conflict. Thriving marriages have more like 20-to-1 of positivity to negativity, and unstable marriages are at a 0.8-to-1 ratio of positivity to negativity during conflict in your relationship, meaning that the negative is outweighing the positive on a consistent basis, which makes it pretty hard to be a team, to be united. And that's what you are when you're married, a team. You're two people on mission together, doing life together. You're a living picture of the gospel, a mini picture of God's relationship with humanity and all of the love and sacrifice and beauty that goes into that. But there's something special about being on mission together. Like, it's fun. It makes life fun. It makes the relationship fun. There's a whole chapter, actually, in one of the books from the resource table in the back on a Sunday that I definitely think you should go grab. It's Single, Dating, Engaged, Married by Ben Stewart. There's a chapter, it's called Marriage as a Pursuit. Again, every married couple should read that chapter about being on mission together, because it makes your marriage better when you lock hands with your spouse and head in the direction that Jesus is calling you to, when you're on mission together. And now let me also say, there's no such thing as the perfect marriage. So I'm not trying to paint this picture of like, this is what you do to get to the perfect marriage. And the married people in the room, they hear that marriage isn't perfect and they give a holler for amen. Like, if you think you have a perfect marriage, you're either delusional or a big fan of hyperbole. But either way, Like when two sinful people get together for life, it's not going to be perfectly self-sustaining. It takes time and investment. And so how do we do that? How can we be on mission together? Well, let me just kind of repeat Mike here quickly from Sunday to help remind us before we head into groups, but we need to invest in talk, time, and touch. Like creating space to talk with each other beyond who's doing what and who is driving who, where, and all of the details of life. Like pursue their heart and make space to talk. Also, time. Like make time for each other, date each other, have fun together. Let your kids see you pursue each other. Let them see the sacrifice you make to spend time together. And lastly, touch. I'll admit, it was pretty funny as the youth pastor to kind of look around both services and see the discomfort in all, like the deep discomfort in all the middle and high schoolers sitting next to their parents as Mike talked about sex. Hilarious. But like Mike said, beyond that, there's other types of touch that we tend to just ditch as we get older. But like maybe that cute old couple that still holds hands while they're on a walk is onto something. Like we see that and we go like, oh, that's so cute. I hope that we're like that someday. And you go, okay, here, hold my hand. Like, oh, gross. It's 90 degrees out. I don't want to feel your sweat. Again, talk, time, and touch. They are worth investing in. If you want to feel how you used to feel about each other, you got to do what you used to do. Or if you want to feel differently about each other than you feel right now, you've got to do something different than what you're doing right now. And I'll even add this. If you want to keep a healthy marriage, a thriving marriage, you have to continue investing in talk and time and touch. Like doing these things are statistic breakers. It paints a more beautiful picture of marriage to the outside world who is so desperately looking to know and be known. The last thing I'll say is this. I don't know where you're at. You may feel great about your marriage. You might not. And if you're not, it's not too late to start investing. It may take a lot of time and intentionality, but you can have a healthy and happy, fun, and thriving marriage. Like you can make the grass green again. To keep the metaphor going, it's been 2 years and I finally have grass in my yard after a lot of intentional care. Talk, time, and touch. It's worth investing in the covenant.